Good afternoon and many thanks indeed for joining us on NTV at 1. My name is Debarl. Now the government will no longer buy, sell or set prices of maize or any other agricultural commodity. These are the words of Agriculture CS Peter Munya, who says the government will also no longer be giving physical food aid and will instead focus on cash transfers so that the beneficiaries can decide for themselves how to use the funds. The CS says this now approach will remove the logistics burden, which often affected by the vagaries of weather. The CS was speaking at the National Cereals and Produce Board headquarters, where he presided over the disbandment of the Strategic Food Reserve Board. Let's listen in, which is ongoing right now.
They are in now a localized area, and we are busy intensifying our containment activities before those hoppers mature to fly and therefore cause a bigger problem. We are also prepared for any eventuality in case we get invasion from those neighboring countries. So we have stockpiled chemicals, we have enough aircraft that we can utilize at a very quick notice to deal with them if they cross into our borders. And then currently also we have a team which we commissioned that is doing an assessment on the ground to see how much damage was caused by the invasion and the measures we need to take to restore livelihood and support families that have been affected. So that exercise already started, and we are going to get a preliminary report on the 15th of June, and the final report on the 15th of July, and then now we start implementing interventions that are going to restore livelihoods that are affected by the locust invasion in those areas. Any other question? Probably that's the final one.
There's one more behind me.
Oh, okay.
Just one question. Was it you said that government is going to facilitate farmers to bring produce and find market in the city? What kind of facilitation are you talking about? And is it only for vegetable farmers or all the farmers who've been selling their produce in Tanzania?
No. What I was saying is that probably you didn't get me well. I was just saying largely what we get from Tanzania is vegetables. We also used to get grain and maize largely, but most of it now is going down south because there's more demand down there. And therefore we were saying the gap we will experience now is supply of vegetables from Tanzania. Now we are saying Kenyan farmers who are growing vegetables and the onions and the tomatoes that were coming from that region have no.
CS Munya taking questions there from the journalist and our reporter also, Lillian Kiare. She's there and will be also apprising and also giving us the details of this particular new development that is coming from the Ministry of Agriculture, where we know also vetting of NCPB officers will be done henceforth. Right, we'll be following that story later also in the day and update you as we've just told you in the evening as well. Now, Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula and Westlands MP Timothy Wanyonyi have led to rest their brother and Wanyonyi's aide Tony Waswa Wetangula. The burial was conducted in a unique way, in line with the guidelines set by the Ministry of Health. Social distance was observed by the small group that attended the burial, with water and detergent made available to sanitize the attendees.
The body of the late Tony Waswa arrived by helicopter and was received by health officials who handled the body from the time it touched the ground. The burial that took place in Muhwea village, Kabushai constituency in Bungoma County was conducted with great precaution in line with the guidelines set by the Ministry of Health during the COVID-19 pandemic. The burial was attended by an estimated 60 people, among them 4 members of parliament from Bungoma County, family and close friends. There was tight security during the event that began with the interment of the body, with the speeches coming soon after. Tony Waswa is remembered by his brothers as an energetic young man who had enjoyed good health throughout his life. He, however, succumbed following a short illness while undergoing treatment at the Aga Khan Hospital. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho has called for stricter surveillance due to the increased coronavirus cases in the county. The governor says he can't understand why Mombasa residents are not taking advantage of the mass testing even after withdrawing testing and quarantine fees.
When Old Town was being put under cessation of movement, there are people who thought they were very smart because it was announced at 3 to take effect at 7 p.m. Quite a number of them left. They left in a hurry to go and hide somewhere. That is why you see a surge in places like Bibi Washafi, one village, 100 houses, first tests, 11 positives. So who's helping who?
Various African leaders have come together to urge international players to involve Africa through a partnership which will see the continent provide solutions for the global post-COVID-19 economic recovery. The leaders said that the African continent has the resources and is capable of supporting the world recovery. The leaders, who included President Uhuru Kenyatta, President Macky Sall of Senegal, President Alassane Ouattara of Ivory Coast, President Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone, and President Mamadou Issoufou of Niger, spoke during a virtual meeting convened by the New York Forum Institute. Speaking at the meeting, whose theme was Resilient World, an African call for a new world order, President Kenyatta asked the international community to view and treat Africa as an equal partner in development. The leaders also acknowledged the importance of technology, especially during these trying times, and its input towards economic growth in the region.
It is quite clear to me and to many of my colleagues across the African continent that our success in defeating this particular disease is going to be based both on our individual country responses, but more importantly, on our collective response as a continent, because that ultimately, given the porous nature of our borders, we need each other in order to overcome this particular problem.
Leaders from Mount Kenya East are accusing President Uhuru Kenyatta of betraying them and plotting the removal of Senate Deputy Speaker Kithure Kindiki. According to them, they have been loyal supporters of Jubilee Party and claim that the motion of impeachment, which has been tabled in the Senate, not only targets Kindiki but the entire region.
Political dividends are paid on earth. They are never paid on even. And Kindiki's position was a position that was negotiated. So a position for the Mount Kenya East region, and specifically for their loyalty to the president and their participation in ensuring that Jubilee won the elections. So if Kindiki was the dirty in the house, if that is what you think, then Kindiki is not just himself. Kindiki represents the Mount Kenya East people in government. So we are on that. Yes, we want to continue being dirty that way. We have no apologies for being dirty after successfully supporting him to be president.
So tunataka kuuliza rais hivi. Sisi kama watu wa Mount Kenya East, tumekosea wapi? Tumekuwa uchafu kwa hii nyumba ya Jubilee ama tumekosea wapi? Kwa sababu ingekuwa mzuri kama vile alituita akatukalisha chini akatuambia nipigieni kula kama watu wa Mount Kenya East. Saizi pia angetuita atukalisha chini atuambie nyinyi watu wa Mount Kenya East kula yenu imemaliza kazi, sasa edeni mkatafuta nyumba nyingine ya kukaa.
Kama mama county wa Tharaka Nithi, sisi tumesikia tumepotelewa na nguvu, manake hiyo ndio ile kiti tuko naye kwa serikali peke yake tukiwa Tharaka Nithi county. Hatuna position nyingine in this government.
Hii kutupiliwa kwa Kindiki kuwa deputy speaker ni kutafutia nafasi wale ambao wamefika, hawana pa kwenda, hawana viti ya kupatiwa. Kwa hivyo lazima watafutiwe. Si ati Kindiki amefanya makosa yote, na mkuu wetu atuambie kinaga ubaga makosa ya Kindiki ni nini, instead of kusema hii nyefu yote. Tuambiwe ni kitu tunatafutia mtu mwingine, wale wamekuja, bibi amepatikana mwingine, ule mzee ameenda, lazima watoto wake pia waende.
Meanwhile, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru has urged Jubilee leaders who are dissatisfied with the party leadership to step up to the plate or resign. Waiguru stressed that those against the party leadership should pave way for others and get new mandates instead of creating a crisis in the party. Speaking after the distribution of food to residents of Kidhiriti village, she insisted that party discipline must be instilled and respected, and those not ready to comply have no room.
There is no party that does not have a code of conduct and their constitution. And so we can see that the party leader, who is the president, has finally taken charge of the party, and we are supporting him and the work that he's doing to ensure that the party runs efficiently. The party is not intimidating anybody. All we have said is that we need to adhere to our party constitution and our code of conduct.
The Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembeya says the ongoing border wrangles between Kenya and Tanzania is unwarranted, and the Kenyan government has since installed a mobile lab in Namanga to expedite the testing of drivers ferrying goods between the two countries. On its part, Tanzania says it has now taken a decision to test every driver who tries to cross in its territory from Kenya, and that from tests conducted at the National Lab in Dar es Salaam between the 14th and 18th of May, at least 24 truck drivers from Kenya tested positive at the Namanga border and therefore denied entry.
Mkozima, habari ya Tanzania? Uhusiano mwema sio? Haya, sisi tunataka namna hiyo. Kwa sababu najua wa Kenya wa Tanzania ni kitu moja sio? Hatutaki ugomvi sisi.
At the Angata Barikoi border point between Kenya and Tanzania in Transmara West, Narok County, all was calm. The visit by the Rift Valley Regional Commissioner prompted by the diplomatic row resulting from Kenya's decision to close her borders with Tanzania except to cargo ferrying vehicles as a measure to contain the spread of COVID-19.
How a public health issue can become a trade issue is what puzzles me, because we are dealing with a public health issue ambayo ina concern Kenya na Tanzania. Sio mambo ya trade between Kenya and Tanzania, hapana.
According to the regional commissioner, combating the pandemic requires regional cooperation and not the hostility it has been met with by the Tanzanian leadership.
Hilo sio jambo la kukasirisha mtu mpaka aanze ku make disparaging remarks about another country, another friendly country. It's not sufficient. That one is a very simple administrative matter. Ndugu zangu, tutafanya namna gani ili magari yasikuwe yanakaa hapa kwa muda mrefu? Kama kuna njia bandala, mtu anajua kwamba kuna njia ambayo watu watapima haraka haraka na ipite, tunatafuta hiyo.
The government is in the process of installing mobile testing laboratories at the borders to quicken the issuing of results to the tested drivers.
Kama pale Namanga saizi tuna mobile lab. Yeah? Specimen inachukuliwa, inapimwa hapo na hapo, matokeo yanatoka hapo na hapo. Delay ya kupata results imepunguzwa. Sehemu zingine kama Loitoktok bado, wakifika pale lazima specimen ichukuliwe, ipelekwe Nairobi, ipimwe, iregeshwe. Yeah? Ndio watu wapewe matokeo. Unapata kunakuwa na delay.
Kenyans who test positive for COVID-19 in Tanzania are being handed over to Kenyan authorities for further treatment. In a statement to the media, Tanzania denies that any of its truck drivers coming into Kenya have tested positive for coronavirus disease, and that while Kenya says at least 182 drivers who tested positive were turned back, Tanzania says repeated tests at its national lab in Dar es Salaam showed that the drivers were in fact negative. The statement further says that the country has now begun testing every driver from Kenya, and that so far at least 24 have tested positive, while a further 11 are awaiting their results. Bridget's Ghana, NTV.
Kenya Airways subsidiary Jambojet has extended its suspension of operations up to 7th June 2020. The airline is encouraging passengers who were scheduled to travel in the period up to 7th June to consider rescheduling their travel to a later date at no extra cost. The extension of the suspension is in line with the government's order for the cessation of movement to its key markets along the coastal belt. The the government has disallowed the movement of persons into and out of Nairobi, Mombasa, Kilifi, Kwale and Mandera, making it counterproductive for Jambojet to continue with operations to other destinations. The extension of the suspension by Jambojet points to the crippling extent of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on airlines, both locally and internationally. To keep planes packed but ready for use later is still another expensive undertaking. Mango farmers in Tana River County are incurring huge losses as a result of the floods experienced in the region, as well as reduced market opportunities caused by COVID-19. The floods have made it difficult to access and harvest the fruit, forcing them to watch helplessly as the fruit goes bad.
They say rains are a blessing, but to mango farmers in Tana River, the rains have been the opposite of a blessing as their farms continue to flood. It is harvesting season, but the rising waters have made it impossible for the farmers to access their farms. The ongoing downpour experienced in the region has also affected market, as farmers say the demand for the fruit has declined.
Embe la kwetu sisi Tana River linauzwa shilingi 2 peke yake. Sisi tunadidimia hali ya uchumi wetu. Na hayo maembe mnaona hapo mbele yetu, sisi tunavuna kwa sababu hatuna budi ya kuvuna embe. Maana mafuriko yametuingilia.
According to farmers, mango flavors have also changed because of the excess water intake. Another burden is the issue of the increased taxation by the county government, which they say has gone up to 10,000 shillings, up from 5,000 shillings per truck.
Unapata mkulima lile zao thamani yake haioni kwa sababu gharama kubwa inabidi sasa alipe gharama ya maboti.
Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa.
Well, and that story by Kevin Mutai makes us also take a short break just to ponder about that. And when we circle back, we continue with more. Don't go away.
Wahenga walisema hakuna kazi ngumu na hakuna kazi rahisi. Watu kwa ground wakauliza, umejaribu mjengo? Take a moment and think about that. Kazi ya mjengo. The fundi, arguably the literal definition of a hard worker. Imagine building all these houses to perfection. What does it take to be a good fundi? Do they dream of having such houses? How selfless. Show me the best house in the country, then show me the person whose hands built it. Show me a better definition of unsung heroes. Every Friday at 7:30 p.m. on Weekend Edition.
If we continue to behave normally, this disease will treat us abnormally.
During this period of COVID-19 pandemic, the National Council for Persons with Disabilities continues to encourage persons with disabilities to follow the guidelines provided by the Ministry of Health to curb the spread of the disease. While observing the guidelines of the Ministry of Health, the Council continues to provide various services to persons with disabilities in all the counties. Among the services is the cash transfer of 2,000 shillings as a stipend to poor and vulnerable households with persons with severe disabilities under the Inea Jamii program meant to cushion them. The National Council for Persons with Disabilities urges all persons to stay safe and practice proper hygiene, love and care.
Sonadol Extra imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli kupambana haraka na maumivu ya kichwa, mwili na hata meno. Sonadol Extra, hakika maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Be not afraid of greatness. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and others have greatness thrust upon them. William Shakespeare. Registration for InterSwitch Spark Kenya 2.0. To switch a future, visit www.interswitchspark.com and register your best 6 Form 3 students for a chance to win 2.5 million Kenya shillings worth of university scholarships, including monthly stipends, and the bragging right as the best STEM student on InterSwitch Spark Kenya 2.0 Science Competition, powered by InterSwitch, transaction solutions you can depend on.
Welcome back. Food and nutrition insecurity is one of the greatest challenges that the country faces, especially for children under the age of 5 years. Due to lack of proper nutrition, many of Kenya's children are stunted or suffer from various other nutritional deficiencies by their 5th birthday. Through the World Health Organization, Murang'a County is working to address some of these challenges by providing children with vitamin A supplements. Martin Maura has more.
In 2017, over 40,000 children were chosen to pilot a program dubbed VAS that was initiated in both Kandara and Murang'a South sub-counties to address food and nutrition insecurity. Each health facility developed a microplan that showed all the children targeted for VAS and how they will be reached as guided by the National Vitamin A Supplementation Policy that recommends delivery of vitamin A capsules through health facilities, ECDE centers, and community health units.
Vitamin A is a low-cost, high-impact nutrition intervention. So when a child receives a dose every 6 months, they are likely to stay healthy, they are protected against infections, and their immunity is boosted.
Every month, a report is compiled to help interpret how many children have been reached. The supplements are administered in 2 doses, one for children aged between 6 and 11 months, and the other one for children aged between 12 to 59 months.
By 2017, our coverage was below 65%, but after the project came in the year 2018, our coverage rose to over 100%, and we have been able to maintain the coverage to at least above 80%.
Community health volunteers conduct door-to-door deliveries where people are unable to access health facilities, ensuring that every child in the area gets the much-needed supplements.
It has come to a point that if you find a parent and amekuona na ile the coat that we do here from the facility, she's even or he is telling you like, oh, go and visit my child, is at home.
Vision International, in partnership with the Murang'a County Department of Health, plans to use the lessons they have learned in these 2 sub-counties to replicate in the other sub-counties that were not implementing the Vitamin A demonstration project.
Many parents in the area struggle to meet the nutritional needs of the children due to limited financial resources and limited food sources. And they say the supplements have helped a lot.
Imenisaidia sana kwa sababu hajakuwa akipata magonjwa.
What we do with the parents, mostly when you go for the meetings, we try to educate them the importance of this vitamin A.
With the supplementation, school turnout is almost at 100%.
We are really continuing with the sustainability of the scale up. In the sub-counties which the project did not roll up, We are still trying to ensure that they are learning lessons from the 2 sub-counties so that we can roll out those lessons and upscale.
According to nutritionists, vitamin A is important for children as it helps build their immunity. Children with weaker immunity get sick more often and are at risk of childhood death. Martin Mora, NTV, Murang'a County.
Let's see what is happening internationally. Burundians have begun voting in the first competitive presidential election since a civil war erupted in 1993, with the Election Commission calling for a peaceful vote despite simmering political violence and the coronavirus pandemic.
Burundians stood in long lines outside polling stations which opened shortly after 6 a.m. to elect not just their new president but parliamentarians and local councillors who in turn appoint the members of the Senate. The election is proceeding despite an outbreak of coronavirus. The population of an estimated 11 million people have not had any restrictions on their movement, unlike in neighboring countries. The election is meant to usher in the first democratic transition in 58 years of independence for the nation. President Pierre Nkurunziza will step down after 15 years. In the presidential vote, 5.1 million registered voters are choosing between Nkurunziza's handpicked heir and frontrunner, 52-year-old General Evariste Ndayishimiye, main opposition competitor Agathon Rwasa, and 5 other candidates. As throughout the campaign, Saturday's final rally of the ruling party in commercial capital Bujumbura saw heaving crowds gathered for hours, with only buckets of water and soap available as a nod to the virus. Ndayishimiye and other officials have insisted God is protecting the state, and only 42 positive cases and 1 death have officially been recorded. However, doctors accuse the government of minimizing the extent of the outbreak. Testing remains very low, however, with only 633 tests carried out, according to the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention. There was widespread international criticism of Burundi's last election in 2015 when Nkurunziza ran for a 3rd term. His opponent said his participation violated a peace deal that ended the civil war and boycotted the poll. The election sparked violent protest that drove hundreds of thousands of Burundians into exile. The government has refused any observers from the United Nations or the African Union, accusing the latter of being too close to the opposition. Social networks had been shut down from at least 1 hour before voting began, with access only possible via a virtual private network. Polls close at 5 p.m. with results expected by next Monday or Tuesday.
Johnson & Johnson on Tuesday announced that it will stop selling its talcum baby powder in the United States and Canada, saying demand had dropped in the wake of what it called misinformation about the product's safety amid a barrage of legal challenges. The well-known company has been hit with controversial claims that their talc products are linked to cancer.
J&J faces more than 19,000 lawsuits from consumers and their survivors claiming its talc powders caused cancer due to contamination with asbestos, a known carcinogen. Many are pending before a U.S. district judge in New Jersey. The company still maintained that it remains steadfastly confident in the safety of talc-based Johnson baby powder, citing decades of scientific studies. J&J has faced intense scrutiny of the safety of its baby powder following an investigative report by Reuters in 2018 that found the company knew for decades that asbestos lurked in its talcum powder. Internal company records, trial testimonies, and other evidence show that from at least 1979 to the early 2000s, the company's raw talc and finished powders sometimes tested positive for small amounts of asbestos. J&J has also been the target of a federal criminal investigation into how forthright it has been about its talc powder safety, an investigation by 41 states into its baby powder sales, which it disclosed in April, and an investigation into health risks of asbestos in talc-containing consumer products by a congressional subcommittee. U.S. Representative Raj Krishnamurthy, who led the congressional inquiry, described J&J's decision to stop selling talc baby powder as a majority victory for public health.
Sporting chance for sports, and Ida Waringa, she's standing by. Ida, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Debarl. And wow, literally cancer in almost everything from powder to meats. Interesting. Let's get into the world of sport. There may be change looming in the sports ministry as media reports abroad indicate that Sports Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Amina Mohammed has become one of the favorites for the World Trade Organization's Director General post. Amina was nominated in 2013, but the post went to Brazilian Roberto Azevedo, who will be stepping down later this year. Now, she's believed to have the necessary experience for the post, having been the country's former ambassador to the WTO, as well as having chaired the WTO's 10th Ministerial Conference in Nairobi. That was back in 2015. There's also consensus that it's time the 25-year-old body has its first ever African head. Now, if Amina was to bag the WTO job, then consequently, Kenya would have its 4th sports CS in the last 7 years. We'll definitely be keeping tabs on that. South Africa's two-time Olympic 800 meters gold medalist Caster Semenya believes that she can be a success in her new chosen distance of 200 meters. Semenya's path has virtually been forced after the Court of Arbitration for Sport allowed the IAAF to prescribe hormone-suppressing drugs for any woman with disorder of sex development, otherwise known as DSD, competing in the 400 meters to 1500 meters events. Semenya has vowed never to take the drugs, and prior to the COVID-19 global lockdown, was waiting in hope that a ruling from the Swiss Federal Supreme Court would overturn that decision. However, regardless of the outcome of her appeal, Semenya has already switched her focus to the much shorter race.
Decision making, we can do what we can control now, which is 200. That's a race. That's a race that we're going to focus, the entire season. We do not care about any other stuff. So 200 it is.
Well, it's a matter of wait and see for football fans globally, and as far as the return of their favorite European leagues that have been halted by the global coronavirus pandemic, with Serie A